Welcome to Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. This power couple is building stronger marriages one day at a time. Talking about real issues on love, relationships, and marriage longevity. Let's break down the barriers and engage in healthy conversation with your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie. Take a seat and buckle up because things are about to get real.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Loving Beyond the I Do podcast.
With your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie.
That's me. All right, so we have a special guest with us in the studio today. Jason, who do we have with us?
We have the dating coach, Evan Katz. Evan, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Evan. How are you?
I'm great. Very glad to be here. I know it took a lot for both of us to get here today.
I know, right? How many times did we reschedule? But thank you so much through all of that. We appreciate that too.
Yes. Let's hope it was worth waiting for, right? Let's make this give the people something to tune into.
I told you I am not going to let you down. So let me just begin. My stage name is Evan Mark Katz. It may not matter, but in Hollywood, there's like a dozen Evan Katzes, which is why I got to use my middle name.
All right.
Evan Mark Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women.
All right. So, Evan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
What is it you do?
For
when you say you're a dating coach.
I started this 17 years ago. There was no such thing as a dating coach. Now there's probably thousands of people who do some form of this work. And I was just a screenwriter who couldn't make a living in Hollywood. And I got a job answering phones at an online dating company and realized, oh my God, I know more than anybody that I'm talking to. I should write a book about this. And so I wrote a book in 2003 called I Can't Believe I'm Buying This Book, A Common Sense Guide to Successful Internet Dating. And unlike my Hollywood career, the book did well, much to my surprise. And so I dropped out of film school and I became the dating guy. And I started writing people's online dating profiles for $99 a pop.
Wow.
And I was 31 years old. And people would say, oh my God, this is getting so much attention. What do I do now? And so you flirt. I don't know how to flirt. Okay, well, let's log into your Match.com account and we'll talk about how to flirt. And so I expanded my suite of services to meet the needs of the people who were coming to me most. And after 5 years of doing some form of that job, I realized 80% of my clients were the same. They were smart, strong, successful women who had everything but the guy.
Okay.
20% of my clients were men, but 80% of them were women. So in 2010, I decided to focus all my energies on helping the people who wanted the most help, the woman who has everything. And so now my business is taking women through this process that I call Love You. It's a 6-month course with a year of coaching. And we hold their hand through these video modules. First month is on confidence and meeting men, dating, understanding men, relationships, and commitment. And when they come out on the other side, they're far more confident and often in healthy relationships. So it's a very hands-on approach where I took everything that I know, put it in one place, and now I've been just doing this forever. This is my life's work.
So I have a question. So when you're coaching them, are you coaching them on what they already know, or are you coaching them on what they don't know and just aren't doing?
Oh, it's usually eye-opening stuff. It's usually shining the light into someone's blind spots. These women are very bright, type A, educated. If they knew what they were doing wrong, they'd be fixing it. But this is the kind of stuff that you can't necessarily get from a therapist who's often a generalist. Mm-hmm. This is very specific. It's a difference, between hiring, going on YouTube to try to get an answer to how to fix a pipe or hiring a plumber. Like, I'm the guy who's going to hire the plumber because, as I said, I'm useless with technology. I'm always going to hire an expert. And so I'm really lucky that I've been able to sort of cultivate this expertise and grow into the person that I asserted that I was when I began this. I've now been married. I started this. I was a single guy. My blog was called Advice from a Single Dating Expert. Now I'm, married 13 years, 2 kids. And like you, I feel like I have a really healthy relationship that's worth deconstructing and explaining to other people what that looks and feels like.
So do you think having your business helped you with your relationship? Did it kind of, working with women, did it kind of also open up your eyes as far as some things that you may not have seen, in women before when you were just dating them?
It wasn't so much, it's a great question, Tina. It wasn't so much a lack of understanding of women. It was more opening my eyes to my own hypocrisy.
Oh,
that was the big takeaway. Basically, I was giving good advice. I just wasn't taking my own advice.
Absolutely. Right.
Okay. So like when you're in the trenches, right? Again, this is pre-podcast. This is like when you're on the phone with someone, a lot of dating relationship advice is common sense. It's not common sense when you're emotionally engaged in it, but it's common sense from the outside. Oh, girl, you should leave him. Like everybody knows how to do that, but when you're in it, it's a lot harder.
Sure.
So I was telling women to make compromises in relationships that I wasn't making myself. I was the picky guy, and that makes me just like all the women who turn to me. Well,
one thing I've learned in my years is that really common sense is not common. Now, you know how we say common sense, but if it was common, they would be using it. So I use that word loosely now because common sense, you say, well, why are they doing that? It's kind of like common sense not to do it, but common sense is not common. Nope. It's kind of, you have to hone in on it. You have to make sure that you're understanding, like you said, what am I doing wrong or not doing enough of, even though I know how it should be done.
So most of your clients are overachiever women.
Wow, that's a big word, overachiever.
Well, I mean, like,
I don't know how to take that as a woman. I would like the word successful.
Successful woman.
Ambitious.
Yes, ambitious.
College educated, six-figure earners. Really, the women who, if you ask them at a cocktail party, are you happy? They would say yes. I like my life.
Sure.
But I'd like my life more if I was in love. I would like my life more if someone was there to take care of me and I didn't have to handle everything by myself.
That's right. So, no man is an island.
These are not sad cases.
Right.
These are people who, for whatever reason that predates my existence, for however they were raised or the decisions they've made with men, have really just bad man pickers. Their radar is broken. And my job is to kind of guide them like a GPS to make better relationship choices. Because they're great, but they have significant blind spots when it comes to how they choose their guys.
Okay. So are you guiding them according to generalization? I know you said you narrow it down. So when you guide them, is it more of what I like, or is it more of what I should be liking? So with men.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, because sometimes you go, well, I'm attracted to this, but maybe that's not where I should be going. Maybe I should really be attracted to this.
Or being open to looking at it that way.
We're using different vocabulary to say the same thing. I think.
Okay.
So I like metaphors. They don't always work. So stick with me on this one. If I could eat anything in the world, if I'm on death row and I got a last meal, I'm eating steak and chocolate ice cream. I love me some steak and chocolate ice cream. And if that's my favorite food and nothing else tastes as good as that, nothing tastes as good as that. Can I eat steak and chocolate ice cream 3 meals a day for the rest of my life?
No.
Of course I cannot. But you can say, but it tastes the best. Why wouldn't you do that? Well, because it'll probably kill you. That's the reason. It's not that it's not great.
Right.
It's that it doesn't actually work. So when we bring this overlay onto dating and relationships, the guy that someone might be the most attracted to because he's tall, dark, handsome, rich, charismatic, whatever, if he never proves to be emotionally available or sensitive to her needs or a good listener or willing to prioritize her time, right? It doesn't matter that he's the sexiest guy or the funniest guy or the smartest guy you've ever met. Those are useless qualities, absent his ability to be a good partner. So I'm not telling someone to go out with someone she's not attracted to. I'm saying if you dial down the attraction a little bit, maybe you could see things a bit clearer,
sure,
and not find yourself hooked on drugs.
The attraction,
because essentially that's a drug. To be addicted to someone who treats you poorly and not be able to get out. Right. So I basically say, hey, we don't even start on drugs. We're not even going to pay attention to that because that steak and ice cream diet will kill you. And the reaction is always, Tina, so wait, I'm just supposed to eat like kale and rice cakes? And I'll say, no. If you think there are only two food groups, steak and ice cream and kale and rice cakes, what about everything in between? This is where healthy relationships are. And if you've had toxic, you can't just do another toxic person and expect a different result. You have to eat something healthy.
Got to make some changes.
Healthy relationships, and you know what it is, and I know what it is. And some people who are single and struggling don't know what we have and have never experienced it. And so we have to kind of ease them into it.
Another good thing. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's for sure. It's kind of like even in a marriage. I mean, just because you're married don't mean that you're in a healthy, happy relationship. So, and that's what we try to do with couples. We want them to feel the bliss that we feel and how to get to this point. So
instead of just saying, as you just said, there's not just steak and ice cream or kale and rice cakes, right? So they're either, okay, this is my marriage and this is pretty much what it is, but we let them know there's a whole bunch in the middle. So what did your wife think? Were you a coach then when you guys met? What did she think?
She was the only person who didn't make a big deal about it.
Really? Oh, and she ended up being your wife, right?
I hope she wasn't one of your clients first. She didn't call you, did you?
No, but everybody else is like, so you're going to write about me? Are you doing research? Do you take everyone here? It was all very, very cynical. And I was like, I just really want to fall in love and be like a video dad.
So how did you guys meet?
Like, I came by this career honestly. I spent 10 years dating prolifically. And if you ever met my wife, okay, I hit it out of the park, but it wasn't by accident. And so, like, I don't know your origin story. Maybe your listeners probably do. I don't know your origin story. But I think that there are different lenses through which you could view a relationship. And the most common lens is relationships take work.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about that.
Uh-huh.
I like to come at it from a complete opposite angle. I feel like if you choose really wisely on who you marry, relationships are actually fundamentally easy. They take effort. They take maintenance. It's not work.
Just work as we said before, it's not work like
right.
Yes.
Right. It's not work like at home. It takes it's exactly what you said. It takes maintenance. As we say, take your marriages off cruise control. So you can't just get married and think that it's going to be the same. It's like a car. Anything that you buy is going to require maintenance throughout its lifetime if you want it to be worthwhile.
Right. But if you marry wrong, there's nothing you can do. You could spend 20 years going to therapy and couples counseling and self-help and communication seminars. You got to make the right choice up front. And that's where too many people go wrong. They marry the wrong person out of timing, attraction, the desire to have a baby, financial security,
whatever, right? A lot of different
reasons.
And
then they hold on for dear life to that relationship as if that guy's the last man on earth. And he's not.
Absolutely.
And so I try to tell women, hey, if you're in your late 30s and you want to have a kid, you don't have to panic. Better to get married right once than to marry the wrong guy and spend the rest of your life trying to make that
make it work.
Yeah, make it work.
So tell us your story about you and your wife since you hit it out the park. Let's see how far that home run went. Was it a home run or was it a what do you call it when it's everybody's on base?
Oh, grand slam.
A grand slam.
Listen, it's hard to be objective about your own story and your own marriage. You know that, especially when you give advice, you have to be open to that kind of scrutiny and what other people are going to think about you. And I've been doing this for a long time. I got my blog in 2016 had 1 million people a month coming to it. Right? Like there was a lot of people who were like, that guy is a dating coach. So I've taken a lot of heat over the years for many, many things, but I'm also very clear on what I did right and what I did wrong. And I'm not shy about admitting any of it. I think I came from this very privileged place of thinking that the perfect partner, and I know how this sounds, was the female version of me.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not that.
But that, you know.
It doesn't work.
I know, but you had to find that out.
Right. But it was like getting electroshocked 100 times. Okay. How come the rat is still going for the cheese? I kept on. That was my blind spot. That was the thing that took 5 years of coaching other women to figure out for myself. I kept on going for the woman who was East Coast, liberal, intellectual, lawyer kind of person. Like, those are my people. Mm-hmm. And it never actually worked. which doesn't mean that I'm self-loathing or that I still don't like to keep the company of people. It's that personality-wise, if I was the ambitious, intense, difficult one, I needed an easier person, right? That was the revelation. You can't have two difficult people in a relationship, and I'm attracted to difficult. I like that friction and that intensity and right, all the things we were already talking about. The idea that my steak and ice cream, that was the best, but it always crashed and burned. So how many times do I have to see the same thing crash and burn when I date some other woman who speaks 9 languages or has a second home in Aspen or some crap like that, which has nothing to do with what kind of partner she is.
Right.
So then I stumbled into dating someone that I met online who was really different than me. She was 10 years, this is not my wife, by the way. This is someone who's 10 years younger. She was an actress. She was new to LA. She was delightful. She was happy. Mm-hmm. Like these are not words that people talk about. What do they do? What's their education? What's their religion? She was happy. She was fun. She was easygoing. She was warm. She was close with her family. I could let down my guard and be myself around her. Mm. And I dated this woman for 8 months. And the only reason I broke up with her was because I was 35 and she was 25. And I was looking for a woman and she wasn't in the same place.
Gotcha.
And so 6 months later, I met a woman who was just like her, who was 38. I traded from 25 to 38. The only guy who's ever done that. I went up.
But you was looking for maturity.
I was looking for a woman to build a life. And we have had a storybook relationship. Again, we've never had makeup sex. That is a real, I know that someone else would say that's terrible. It means, means we're not fighting.
Exactly.
So did you meet her online?
Yeah, he said he met her.
No, you met the other woman online. Okay. Right. So how did you meet your wife?
It makes for a great story. I do a lot of online dating coaching. I really believe in online dating as a means of creating opportunity because real life is hard to meet people. Mm-hmm. So I coach people with online dating a lot, but I never would have met my own wife online, even though we were on the same site at the same time when we met, because she wasn't looking for a Jewish guy. I wasn't looking for someone 3 years older. If I wanted to have kids, I wasn't looking for a 38-year-old to have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Right? We would have been 2 ships passing in the night. That's the point. All these people are available online, and we look right past them. People that we can be perfectly compatible with, because they don't fit that very narrow vision of what we think we're looking for. Because what we're looking for is the opposite sex version of ourselves. So
you met her how? How did you guys meet?
I met her at a party in Beverly Hills. Through mutual friends. It was like a Sunday night potluck dinner, and I wasn't hitting on her. I was actually trying to make the hostess of the party jealous. I went out with the hostess of the party. She's like, "Could we be friends?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll be friend. You could still come to my party. All right, I'll go to your party, and I will ignore you at your party." So I went to this party specifically to ignore the hostess to make her jealous, and I found myself talking to 2 38-year-old divorced brunettes, and I wasn't hitting on either of them. I was just talking. Right, just hanging out at a party, and the next thing you know, it was midnight, and we shut down the party, me and these 2 women, and I didn't even know which one I liked more. It wasn't like this love at first sight magic. It was just, you seem cool, and we just never stopped talking.
Wow. All 3 of you guys?
for that one night. After that, I had a focus.
Okay. You have to get that tunnel vision back in.
Right, right.
Again, you can't play 2 friends against each other. You gotta choose.
So what were some of the things that you knew right off the bat that this was your person? Because so often that's what we miss. Like you said, picking the wrong person.
So again, I know how everything I say sounds, and it's so counterintuitive, which is why I like telling this story so much. Mm-hmm. Right? If everybody else's version is relationships take work, I like relationships take easy. And if everybody in the world says, you just know when it's right, I didn't know when it was right. Not at all. I didn't figure it out until 6 months after I was married.
Okay.
And I think that's a useful narrative too.
Yes.
So basically, with you and her, you just kind of spoke and talked, and it just felt right. And she wasn't like you. So I'm missing the point. Okay.
It was not about. Here's the thing, and again, I know you guys know this because you are a successful couple who's helping other couples. At the beginning of most relationships, we treat love like it's a feeling, right? Like it's this thing that bubbles up from inside of us.
Right.
But the more mature version of love, right? This is Eric from The Art of Love, like 1972 or something like that. I might be misquoting, but love is an action. How do I do loving actions for someone? No one wakes up in the morning after 20 years with their spouse and says, "Oh my God, I'm so thrilled to breathe your air. What a fascinating thing is this person going to do?" It's not like that. It's closer to familial obligations.
Right.
What, you don't get excited when you think of your kids. You do what you got to do for your kids because you love them unconditionally, deeply. Anything, nothing's off limit. And so, because I didn't have that mystical high that people think they have to have, that they call being in love, I wasn't blinded by that. Mm-hmm. So we had this really great, easy relationship, and we were hanging out, we were having great sex, and we were traveling, and everything was great. But there was no moment that I was like, "You're my soulmate. You're the one." Because in the past, I had dated women who were younger, thinner, smarter, more impressive on paper. But in actuality, I never had a more compatible relationship. Our relationship was a 10, right? But I was so used to being dazzled by
all the other stuff, all the other attributes.
So I would go out with someone who was a 10 on paper, but our relationship would be like a 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Now I have a 10 that's a relationship where everything is a 10. And I had a friend who was married for 20 years. And he said, "Evan, what's wrong with you?" I said, I don't know if I'm feeling what I'm supposed to be feeling. He goes, "Don't focus on the person, focus on the relationship." Right? We get so used to comparing people side by side.
Sure.
Right. And we all can do it. I dated someone who was younger. I dated someone cuter. I dated someone smarter. And the person you marry is not the composite of all the best things. It's the one person who, for some reason that you can't put a finger on, is the person that you don't want to kill.
Yeah.
Like, it's this one person that if you were driving in a car without a radio for the next 40 years, you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when picking relationships, when you're talking with women and you're telling them to basically start with themselves, and when they think that they've found someone that they're compatible with, not to fantasize into fantasy of what they wanted or the feeling, or as we call it, the rose-colored glasses, but the verb itself of love, to understand what a relationship takes. And so what are you telling them to focus on in the beginning to maintain a good, healthy relationship?
The lack of anxiety.
Okay.
And again, these are like counterintuitive ways of approaching things that have been talked about by many people who are smarter and more experienced than I am. But what I discovered accidentally through a lot of trial and error is that the thing that my wife had that nobody else had was I could just relax and be myself.
Absolutely.
And I never had to backtrack and apologize or make up and break up. And it was just
the mask.
Yeah.
You didn't come with the mask.
But we a lot of people associate relationships with anxiety. It's this roller coaster.
Yeah, like we're supposed to go through that.
He hasn't texted me in 3 hours. I'm going to kill myself. We need to talk. Where's this going? Like, we were just this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just kept getting better and better and better. So it never started up here and then have that downslope at 18 to 24 months that people have when the attraction wears off and you're like, "Oh God, I hate this person." We never started that high. We just kept getting better and better. So other people marry at 18 months, have kids, and then hate each other. And we had this really like slow, steady, easy rise where the more time we spent, the deeper we went, the more trust we built, the more common interests we shared, the more stories and common language we had. It was the real slow burn. And when I proposed to her, I proposed to her because she was 38 and we wanted to have 2 kids, and I rushed the proposal. I wish I had another year. I proposed at 16 months, right? Okay. But it wasn't until we were married for 6 months that I knew I made the right decision. And that was when we had a miscarriage. And I realized, this is so much bigger than me. Oh, gosh.
Right.
It's not about me. It's about us, the unit. This is so much bigger. And then something sort of like dropped, and I was like, "Oh, I'm all in." Right. And so it's not the path. I like presenting it as an alternative to the, "Oh my God, you just know when it's right." Because the other version of, "Oh my God, you know when it's just right," not every couple, but almost every couple that's ever been divorced had the, oh my God, you just know when it's right. So how accurate is that?
A large percentage.
How accurate is, oh my God, you just know when you meet the one? It's not accurate. So I don't trust, oh my God, you just know. Right? I trust the lack of anxiety. I trust that I can breathe and I'm accepted and I never have to play games or like it's just
absolutely.
It's the kind of thing that you have with a handful of people in your whole life where there's no pretense that anything will ever break you.
It doesn't have to be that hard. I say that all the time. Relationships don't have to be that hard.
And that's what we tell people. Relationships aren't supposed to be hard or difficult or stressful.
Absolutely. We as, I guess, maybe the misconception people have about what a relationship should be. As you said, the roller coaster.
Right.
He hasn't texted me. The anxiety. Maybe that's what people are looking for.
They've normalized it.
Yes, they have.
So
they made it part of the process.
Person who looks right, you could say, I'm in love, right? Whatever that means, doesn't mean anything. It really means I'm wildly attracted to someone. It's not really love. I'm in love with someone, right? And because relationships take work, I'm willing to put up with an endless amount of bullshit to stay with this person that I declare myself in love. So we had 3 great months when he was a prince. He's been distant and selfish ever since.
Right.
And now we hold on, right, and say, how do I get the first 3 months back? And you don't.
Yeah.
This is it, how it is right now.
Right. This is who the real person is.
This is it. The beginning was the audition. That's how he got the job. And now that he has the job, he's slacking off. So I tell my clients, and again, if I coach men, I'd say the same thing. But because I coach women, I tell women, you're the CEO. He's the intern. See how bad he wants the job.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was going to say, what would be your biggest tip for women so when you say women who have everything, what about women who are on the rise of having everything, but still want that mate? Does the same thing apply? Because everyone wants companionship.
For sure.
The nice part about our work, the thing that we're talking about here today is that this, love and the desire for love and companionship is universal. I'm sure if you guys go out to a bar and you say you have a podcast about relationships, everybody gathers around you and wants to know more. I mean, there's something very universal about this. It's not a niche thing. Everybody has a love life. Everybody wants a love life. And so what people don't calculate is that nothing will make you happier in the long run than who you marry. No amount, no power, money, prestige, nothing will make you happy. But the problem is we get so caught up in our relentless pursuit of achievements that sometimes we don't even look up and realize, oh, I have the house, I have the degree, I have something in the bank, I just bought a cool car, and I'm really lonely. And the pandemic definitely opened people's eyes.
Oh, it did.
I have everything, and I think I have nothing.
So what advice, what is a big tip that you would give women when they're looking for that substantial relationship? What is the first thing that you usually tell them when you meet them? It's first because it has to start with them.
Well, to be clear, I don't recruit people. People come to me after Googling something on the internet and ending up on my blog, or listening to the podcast, or finding a YouTube channel. People find me and they listen to enough of these kind of conversations. They're like, that kind of makes sense. I think that applies to me. And they give me their email address and I send free advice all the time. Tons and tons of free advice. So
what is some of that free advice that you give women?
I have a 6-month curriculum with 280 videos in it. I don't exactly know to tell you the best one, but we are talking. We are talking about really important core concepts, right? So if there's an umbrella over everything, right? It starts with confidence, and again, confidence is an overused, underexplored word, right? We could just say confidence as if it means something, but basically, confidence means having faith in your own judgment to live by your own decisions instead of not trusting your own judgment and putting other people's needs over your own. So I've got women who are very confident in the real world because they are successful, because they are intelligent, because they are ambitious, because they've accomplished a lot. And they have no confidence when it comes to relationships. And if you don't have confidence, that will show up in 100 different ways. It'll show up in how you text. It'll show up in the first month of dating, if you're dating multiple people at the same time. It'll show up in how you approach sex. It'll show up in how you have discussions about how you get your needs met. If you don't have confidence, your boat is already sunk. So I can give all the advice in the world, but if she doesn't have the ability to express these boundaries, I'm going to tell a quick story. There's a woman who's in my Love You course right now. She met a guy, they had a great connection, and they're older. They're like 70, really like sweet, older Midwestern lady. And she got hooked on this guy who's a recent widower. He lost his wife within the past year. He's not emotionally available. He told her he wasn't emotionally available and that he's working through things and he wants to be there, but he can't. He just, and this is a hard time of year. It's the 1 year anniversary and it's the holidays. And so I was like, you gotta let him go. And she's like, no, but like, I'm a really nice person. And I just feel like I want to send him a birthday gift and let him know that I'm thinking of him and just check in to see on his emotional progress. And this is a perfect example of how someone doesn't have the confidence to say, you know what? You're a great guy. Work your shit out. If when you're ready, and if I'm still single 8 months from now and you give me a call, great, I'd love to go out with you. But right now, we got to close the book on this. It takes confidence to say no to something that's good because it's never going to be great.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about when you said I can't give advice, not advice, but a tip. So the biggest tip would be really we have to start with confidence. And so I would definitely, as you said, it's an umbrella, but that is something women, if you have the confidence, you can move forward in obtaining that right relationship, but you have to have that because we make so many bad decisions.
A COVID shot of confidence. You can't, that's the hard part. That's why it's so hard to deal with. And that's why the entire first month of my course is about confidence, right? It
makes us without it. Go ahead. I was going to say,
if I were a cognitive behavioral therapist, which I'm not, but if I were a cognitive behavioral therapist, what we're doing is taking behavior, right? And finding that the mind catches up with the behavior. So it's, in other words, it's a little bit of a fake it till you make it. Here's what a confident woman would do in the situation. Do that, right? Communicate clearly, set boundaries, cut off guys who are not giving you what you need instead of holding on to them. Act like a confident person, even if you don't feel it. And then the world will start to see you as a confident person. And the confidence will rise in accordance with that. So that's what Love You does, is we take women who don't trust themselves, they trust my judgment. I'll tell them, here's how you handle this situation. Here's what a confident woman would do. That's not what I would do, right? That's what she says. That's not what I'm thinking of doing. Do this. I don't know, Evan, that doesn't feel right. Do this. And guess what happens? And so it's like a personal trainer at a gym. It leads to good outcomes if you use best practices. And a lot of people just don't have the internal architecture to figure out those best practices. You guys arrive at that, and you deserve a lot of credit for that. But a lot of people, and you know them to the best of their abilities, are too close to it to figure out how to do it.
Wow, just listening to your story, it just makes me think, as you said, people reach out and contact you, but yet they're still not willing to listen to the advice or what you would tell them to do. Well, I want to make sure that he's okay, or I want to do this. Not realizing that's the road that you've always taken. Right. So why go through the process of?
That's the point. That's the whole point of having a coach and having personal attention and having accountability. You could watch a YouTube video, you can listen to a podcast, and that makes sense. Another example, and it's not the best example. There's a lot of different schools of thought around this. I don't advise women to sleep with a guy unless he's her boyfriend. Right? I'm not anti-sex. I just think if you sleep with a stranger, there's a coin flip chance you're never going to hear from him again. So I'd say, hey, let a guy court you for a month, figure out if he's a serious candidate. If he's ready to be a boyfriend, now you can sleep together and you know he's going to call you the next day. It doesn't guarantee you're going to be together forever, but at least it guarantees that you're not going to be anxiously waiting by your phone to hear from him. Right?
Yep.
Or disappointed
when he doesn't text you in 3 days or whatever.
Does to your confidence when he doesn't.
Tina and Jason, at least 50% of the women in my Love You course sleep with guys before they're divorced. Right? It does not matter what I say. In one ear, out the other, because people are going to do what people are going to do. And you can
and
wave
they
your
actually
hands.
tell you this, huh?
But
They tell you, okay, I know you said not to, but I thought this was the right time.
Yeah, he felt like Mr. Right or whatever.
it was in the moment.
And so
it was
what do
in
you-
the moment. We had a couple of drinks. He seemed so great. And he followed up. I'm still seeing him. I said, but he's not your boyfriend. His profile's still online, and now you're freaking out. Yeah. I said, well, that's why I told you not to. But I'm not gonna give you guilt about it. I'm not gonna be your mom.
Right.
I'm not gonna judge you. It's effective versus ineffective rather than right versus wrong. I don't tell people they're wrong. I'll say the thing that you're looking to accomplish, this successful relationship, the steps you're taking are inconsistent with someone who wants this thing. And so there's a million examples of, well-intentioned advice that gets ignored because people, have their patterns. They have their natural ways. And it's unnatural to do some of these things for people who have emotionally unavailable parents who are highly critical, or a dad who abandoned them, and they associate love with abandonment, and they're always trying to win guys over. And I mean, there's just a lot of shit that predates this. And
I was just going to go into that, dealing with people's backgrounds and understanding that background baggage. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
same
I'm
thing
not
we
a
go with the
psychologist,
couple.
and so I don't pretend to go into their backgrounds. I just say, however you got here, if you were sexually abused 40 years ago, wherever you are today, I'm going to help you move forward. There are psychologists who will help you look at the past. I help people create a new future.
As you move on to the future. Yeah. Just imagine that with, with couples. I mean, couples have the same thing. They come in with a lot of baggage, or they have their way of doing things. And it's like, okay, guys, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to try some things. We're going to do this and do this. And, let's see how this works out. And then, I didn't want to do that. I felt like that wasn't the best way because I'm used to doing this and he's used to doing that. I'm like, okay, well then let's try something else. So, it's the same thing. We're going to try something, but people are stuck in their own ways. And then you just have to bring it to light. Like, see, that may not have been the best decision, but they have to see it for themselves. Right. So once they see it, then they'd be like, okay, I'm more open to listen to you because of that.
People got to learn the hard way, and you can give them the easy path. But it does feel very parental. It feels like raising children. You can try to tell
and even though you say, I'm not going to judge you,
and
you have to be in the back. I'm not going to say, even though you say I'm not going to judge you, in the back of your mind, you have to be thinking, like, why are we doing this? Right? Why are we doing this if you're intentionally not going to listen to the advice that you're obviously paying for?
It's funny, but it's not from a judgmental lens. It's anything. Right. It's very sympathetic. Like, you so desperately want to help. And again, this is all I do. 5 hours a day, I'm on the phone. There's a break in my schedule, but 5 hours a day, I'm on the phone listening to women complain about men and why nothing's working. And so nothing's magic. It's more, your heart bleeds. I mean, you wish you could wave a magic wand and make it all better. And it's one step forward, two steps back, that kind of thing. It's just the way dating and relationships work. And the crazy thing about this compared to losing weight or going to law school is you could be a failure, and then one day you're a success. There's no linear progression.
Right.
Like this.
I dated 300 people before I met my wife. That's a lot of failure, a lot of trial and error. And then one day, I'm a genius. I have it all figured out. So clearly that's not how it works. What we want to see is progress. Do you feel better about online dating? Do you feel better about yourself? Do you feel about how you're communicating and setting boundaries? Are you choosing better men? Are the relationships a higher bar than the previous guy? And the girlfriend before my wife was the high bar before I met my wife. And each successive relationship in my 30s was one step closer to what would ultimately be the keeper. So I think that's what we want to see is even if you don't, get a ring on your finger, we want to see progress. When you look back 1 year, do you know more? Are you closer to your goal? Do you have a better understanding of how to navigate this on your own?
So do you think, so you said you had men and women as clients, and then you went to women because majority of them were women. Do you think you had an advantage because it was from a man's standpoint and it was easier to kind of work with women because they want to understand the man as opposed to the man saying, well, I'm not that type of person? Did the woman just make it a little easier for you?
It's an It's actually a really interesting question. I don't spend too much time thinking about now. I always joke, men need more help. Women ask for more help.
That's true, because a man will keep his mouth closed, but he need all the help. Yes.
So you were like, I'm going to give my time to the people who are actually asking and willing to do something as opposed to wanting me to guess.
So again, this is complex. So I love working with women. It is my life's work exclusively for over 10 years. But men are actually easier to help. They just don't ask. Men are more likely to just, like it's a YouTube video. They're just going to follow directions. Tell me what to do. Boom, 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 boom. Women want to really understand. What is he thinking? Why? The guy doesn't want. Guy's not asking. What is she thinking? She says, "Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. I'll follow directions." She really wants to kind of dig in there and challenge you, because this doesn't add up to me. And guy just wants to follow directions. Like if there was like a 3-point checklist on how to give a woman an orgasm, you don't think every guy would have that 3-point checklist?
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, yes. And they would call their friends and say, hey, this is the 3-point checklist. So, but as a man, if they just want to know what to do, wouldn't that make them more of a robot and not a relationship? Because they're not, to me, that's kind of like a mask. That's not, they're taking the advice from you to what to do to have a good relationship.
Part of the reason that I actually like working with women. And the guys, no, really, as I said, you could flip this thing around from a couple sides. The guys, I would get alpha females and beta males in general. Those were my people, right?
Okay.
Those are the people who were asking for help. And so the kind of guy
I can see that
doesn't have any confidence, doesn't have any experience, doesn't know when to kiss someone, right? Like, just doesn't do well with women. He's the nice guy. He's in the friend zone, right? Those guys are actually really easy to help. So who do they go to? Pickup artists. Guys who are completely slimy, who do have a 3-point checklist. And here's the line you say to her when you're trying to get her in bed. That's where they go.
Right.
Yes.
I don't want to be part of that world. Right? You can't. I mean, there's a living to be made in it, but I don't want to be a part of that world at all. So I basically cut 20% of guys off. I said, good luck with your pickup artists. I'm going to find men who actually want to understand men, and I'm going to tell them the truth. Even when it doesn't make men look good, I play the role of every boyfriend. And like, here's what he's thinking. If he's a good guy, here's what he's thinking. You may not agree with it, but here's his point of view. And I put a human face on it. Like, I'm ostensibly an ethical, good husband and father. And if I might think some of those awful things, maybe your boyfriend does too. And maybe you can learn not to demonize him. And if you can't put up with a guy like that, find another guy. That's perfectly fine. But I think there's a big realm of normal in the bell curve. And there's guys who are out here, and there's guys who are out here. But I think there's a whole bunch of normal. And a lot of people just want to know, is this normal? Right? This relationship I have, this guy, is it normal for a guy to do X, Y, and Z? And I'll think, oh yeah, I've done that. I guess it's somewhat normal. I can't be the only person who thinks like that. And so then it gives them insight to a world that they don't have access to, because men don't know what it's like to be women. Women don't know what it's like to be men. The best you can do is have a bunch of men and women friends. Right? If you don't, then you're really going to have a honking blind spot. Men are terrible at understanding women. Gosh. I mean, women at least make the attempt. Men are the worst when it comes to understanding women. That women just want to feel safe, heard, and understood. And if you could give her that.
Yeah. So you've come to the realization, as women say about men, they're pretty easy. They just have basic needs that need to be met, and you met them, and they're pretty easy.
The problem is, because we're talking, we could say 90% of men and women are the same. I don't think men and women are like wildly different, but there's 10% that's different. That explains a lot of the friction. Right? So a woman, again, we'll go back to this. A woman will be like, why would he sleep with me if he didn't even like me? I would never do that. And that's literally what she's thinking. I would never sleep with a guy I didn't like. And she's assuming because she would never do it, that he wouldn't do it. Yeah. And I was like, there's absolutely no correlation. It was 2 a.m. She had 3 drinks and she said, yes, that's all. He doesn't have to like her. He doesn't have to be attracted to her. She's there. But I would never do that. So now we understand a difference. Right? And if men could really understand how women just want to be listened to and respected, right? Guys are so tone deaf. They need to be right, arguing all the time, playing some sort of dominant card, and just listen to her, validate her. It's not that fucking hard. And guys just are terrible at it. I think there's really a very narrow lane of men who are capable of being good husbands. And that's hard to say, and I mean it.
Wow.
We even find that. We even find that in relationships and marriages. I mean, the male sometimes
dating leads to relationships. This is the same stuff,
right? And then that man ends up in the relationship, and then
or in the marriage, as you said, in the marriage that you're trying to hold on for dear life, but it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, because
no matter
when
how
we were
much.
dating those first 3 weeks, I mean, like he was the bomb.
Yeah,
I mean, I want him back.
No amount of couples counseling is going to fix that guy. You have to, and so now we find something that's even more interesting. What people are attracted to, and this is where you started to, what people are attracted to and what's good for them are not a complete overlap. Yeah. Right? The steak and ice cream. Right? Mm-hmm. So if someone's attracted to confident alpha male, and I can see why that's really attractive. Right? He's a leader.
Absolutely.
Knows what he's doing, speaks his mind, he's got a backbone. Right? You can see why that's attractive. But if that comes with a guy who works 50 hours a week and verbally abuses you, it doesn't help out with the housework and child rearing because that's woman's work, right? You're going to have a miserable marriage, even if you're wildly attracted to him and respect him. You're going to have a miserable marriage, right? And so studies show the things that make men into good husbands are traditionally feminine qualities. Helps out with housework and child rearing.
Listens, absolutely.
Listens and is
listens to understand.
Sensitive to her emotional cues.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The best husbands are the ones who are the most like women. That's
or raised with sisters, right?
No, but like that in and of itself is fascinating because there's what you're attracted to and then there's what works. And we're trying to find something in between those two things.
Right. The overlapping balance, right?
I never thought about that. I'm about to look into that. Yeah, they have more feminine qualities.
So when women come to you and are they pretty much they're looking to find out what is wrong with me? Is that the first question they ask?
And the answer,
why can't I find the man that I need to be with?
Right. So there's nothing wrong with you.
Right, but I'm saying, is that usually how women approach you, though? So I'm looking for
Someone
So I'm thinking we always
2 hours ago, and she insisted there was something wrong with her, and I said,
and that's what I'm saying. As you said, is we need confidence, and part of that confidence is building, realizing it's nothing wrong with us. Right. We're just not demonstrating confidence in the things that we really want, as opposed to what we're taking.
Yes, but on top of that, I agree with you.
Right.
But on top of that, the problem is their choice of men. It's not them.
Yes.
There's a guy who's a perfect fit.
Exactly.
If you never choose that guy, if for example, a woman's like, all men are cheaters. Like that's her version of that. All men are cheaters. I dated 3 guys in a row and they all cheated on me. Her version of events is all men are cheaters. What she's not seeing is she's attracted to and chooses low character men.
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly.
Her sample size is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And she's forgetting about all these other guys that she would never go out with in a million years because they're so nice.
or whatever.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Right.
They're the kale and the rice cake.
The rice cakes,
right.
yeah.
So
absolutely.
her version of events is all men cheat. How could I ever find a man? And I was like, well, you haven't really tried that many. It's really just a self-selection process. But I don't want to go out with that guy. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to make you go out with this guy. But like, we have to find something between your kale and your steak and ice cream. And
absolutely.
I'm confident it exists. I think there's a lot of what I call nice guys with balls that women like and are attracted to and respect. And I count myself as one of them. Pretty much every guy I know who's happily married is one of them. They're not doormats, but they're fundamentally good, honest, hardworking, ethical men. And when you've been hurt by so many men for so long, it's easy to get into this world of there's no good ones out there.
Yeah, that's the first thing you hear.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think looking from the perspective of the woman, just understanding that, as you said, we can't take 3 and think it's a generalization of all men.
Right.
And the other thing is that we have to realize that it's really from within. It's the confidence that carry, that women carry as to what they're looking for in a man. Yeah. Not what they think, what makes a good man, but what, as you said, what makes us compatible, what makes the ease. Absolutely. So with women out there who are looking and wondering why they can't find the right man, it's because either you're picking the wrong ones,
obviously,
to generalize, or you're just not confident enough to let them know what it is how to meet your needs and what you will and won't.
Or to let them go, or just to realize, hey, this this is now sunk costs. I'm going to invest more and more time in something that's not going anywhere. I had a client the other day, and we just got her out of a relationship, and it was a 2-year relationship. I said, looking back, when did you know that it was wrong? It was 4 months. That's a typical story. That's a normal story. So it takes confidence to listen to your feelings. Women are feeling sensitive, intuitive, and they ignore their feelings.
Absolutely.
Ignore, bury, deny, because it's too hard to admit.
Ignore the signs, ignore the feelings.
Not who I thought he would be. He was, I'm banking on potential. The only way this relationship works is if he changes, and men ain't going to change.
Nope.
Right? So let's just say, if you're not happy with the way he is now,
right,
go find a different guy. And again, it may not be anybody's fault. Sometimes 2 puzzle pieces just don't fit. We don't have to blame anybody.
Right.
You just have to find puzzle pieces that fit.
I think that's the problem. Women hang around too long waiting for that person to change into the person that they want them to be.
Or assuming that they're going to change. Absolutely.
Yeah. He has potential, and you waste 3 years or 2 years on someone for them to change into the person that you really want them to be, and they never do. But that's good that you actually...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say that, but that's good that you actually get them to see the light, to say, you know what, maybe you should just end this relationship so you can find the person that you need to be with.
But again, that's all it is, and that's. I want to ask you guys something. Do you guys function as couples counselors in some sort of way? Because for me, and again, I know this is my bias. I always feel like couples counseling is almost like a moment too late. It's like really trying to piece Humpty Dumpty back together.
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't do couples counseling. No, we do coaching like you.
Yeah,
we're not. No. Counseling is a little bit more of, as you said, we're not trying.
I'm not.
When you're in a relationship that there's really no fixing, then you try to
go to
do the counseling. But I mean, no, we don't do the counseling.
We
do
want
the coaching.
people that's into their marriage, know that it's not where they want it to be, and willing to work on
at a good place, but wanting to be better, constantly moving up,
right?
Constantly,
How can I get better? How can I make? I want to love my wife. I may not know how to love my wife the way that I need to.
It's about taking. Well, it's about taking responsibility. I think people just have a tendency to blame. Right? There's what's wrong with your wife, and there's what's wrong with your husband, and you're both right. Yeah. Whatever criticism you have of each other, you're both right. The problem is it doesn't change anything. Right? So what are you going to do with the fact that you're X and he's Y, and like? What are we going to do with that?
How are we going to make it work?
Right,
Absolutely.
In spite of this person's intractable flaws.
Right.
Because you're never going to iron them out.
Well, we all have them. That's the whole point. Accepting people, that's the biggest thing in marriage. Accepting people for where they are. Not what you want them to change or how you want them to change, but where we are. Let's meet each other and just working on that, because part of what makes a good relationship is that we're alike, but yet we're different.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes it work. If we were the same, probably would go crazy. Right.
And that's the cool thing. You need someone to offset you. Just like I don't need someone that's always agreeing with me or don't have an opinion and on a particular thing in the relationship. So you come with your own set. Now, in the beginning, they love that part. You're independent. I love this. You speak your mind. But then when we get married, I may not want you to speak your mind as much. What I loved about you then, now I dislike. In
some relationships.
In some relationships, like the things you love, you end up disliking the most. So you just kind of get back to that point. Why? Because now that person or wife or husband is too overbearing, right? So now I feel less than the person in the relationship. No, equal. Everybody has their own strong points and weak points, and you just have to learn to live together within those, barriers. So that's what we try to, work on. It's okay to be different. It's okay. They just need to know how to love you. And if you can teach them how to love you and vice versa, you can have a loving, happy, prosperous marriage. And that's what we work on.
That's beautiful.
So it's a lot of coaching.
Well, it's a lot of understanding yourself. It's a lot of self-love, self-work, and understanding, because when I make myself a better person, if we're encouraging, as you said, the confidence in people. So if we are coaching people to be more confident in their relationship and in each other, right? So I can only be a better person in my relationship if I'm a better person altogether.
I can't argue with that.
So it's kind of like that.
And I think that's hard, and because when people operate from a place of scarcity, thinking they can't do any better, you're likely to stay with someone who may not be a good person, or good in the way you need them to be, or they can be a good person but not a good partner. There are plenty of, I've got clients who are divorced and like, he's an amazing father. And I was like, well, that doesn't do you any good. But that's her evidence that he's a good person.
Right.
He's an amazing father.
Right.
But how is he showing up for you? It doesn't matter if he's an amazing father. It doesn't matter if he's got 10 employees. How do you feel? Not just when you're with him, but when you're not with him.
But also feeling that we need to compromise. So we need to compromise in this area because he's more in this area. So he's a better father. So I'm willing to compromise that he's not meeting my needs as a husband, which all of them can be met. And that's. And so I make a distinction between compromise and settling. And I've never heard it phrased this way. Because when you say compromise, people hear settle. Right? So they equate the two. They're the same thing. They both involve trade-offs. The difference is how you feel about it afterwards. A compromise, you feel good about it. Settling, you feel miserable. Right? Yeah. But both means giving up something that you don't really want to get something else. Wow.
And so, you could sign a contract on a house, and if it's a compromise, you feel good about it. I got my house, they got their price, everybody wins. If you feel like you lost the negotiation, that's the problem. And people don't quite get that in relationships, right? They'll compromise because relationships involve compromise, and then they'll be miserable. And they'll be like, I thought I was supposed to compromise. Not to the point of misery, compromise.
Or not to the point of misunderstanding that you shouldn't be settling. We don't have to settle in relationships.
Right.
As you said, there's no scarcity.
Right.
There's more men and more women. You don't have to settle.
But that's the thing is people don't know what's healthy and normal. People think it's okay to be in a relationship where they're verbally abused. People think it's okay to be in a relationship where there's drag out screaming, fights and silent treatments and threats to break up. And they've normalized it. That's what love is associated. Isn't this what people do? Right? And it's not. But it's like if you've never had like a good bottle of wine, you don't even know what good wine tastes like. You've got a whole bunch of people who've never had anything to know what healthy looks like or feels like or normal.
So that's okay. But when we do taste that good bottle of wine, even though we may not be an avid drinker, we know when it's good.
Right?
We know.
And so in love, it's not the high. It's the absence of anxiety. It's the feeling that you can let down your guard, be yourself. And as you said, Jason, and I don't know your single experience before you got married, but for me, the hardest thing to find was a woman who accepted me in full. I'd find incredible women, nothing but good things to say about them. Evan, I love you, but you have to change this and this and this and this.
Wow, Evan, I don't know. You might not have been a good thing you started coaching women.
But my wife knows all those criticisms as the ex-girlfriends do. She sees the same things. She's just not constantly getting on my case about it.
No, I think you may have changed a little. I think you may have dropped a little bit. She's not
harping on them either. She's like, I can work with that.
The point, she's made that choice. It would be like, oh my God, I moved to Los Angeles. I can't believe there's so much traffic. Like, you don't go to Los Angeles expecting there to be no traffic, and you don't move to Michigan thinking it's going to be 80 degrees in winter. You have to accept some form of compromise, and we compromise in our work, we compromise on our homes, we compromise in the city we live in, with our friends and our family, and sometimes we think relationship is the only place we can get it all. We're going to find a guy who's a multimillionaire, but he's home at 5 to cook dinner and read to the kids. It's this really magical thinking that someone's going to have all good qualities and no bad qualities. So then it becomes, what bad qualities can you accept? And what should you compromise on? And what shouldn't you compromise on?
Absolutely.
And so this is where I want to leave you. Here are 5 things that no one can compromise on. And if you don't have these 5 things, you got nothing. Character, kindness, consistency, communication, commitment. I could give you Top Chef Supermodel Rhodes Scholar. But if you don't want to commit, if he doesn't communicate, does not matter, any of it. And so people refuse, we're trying to, Tina, to compromise on height or weight or age or education or religion or politics. But they'll gladly compromise on character.
Oh.
So you see that really important distinction? People compromise on the wrong things because of the crap
that matter in the relationship. Right. If they're looking for a substantial relationship, if they're looking for a quality, long-lasting, longevity relationship, absolutely. So tell us, as we wind this down, Evan,
yes,
let us know where we can reach you, where they can reach you, contact you, all of your information.
My name is Evan Katz, EvanMarkKatz. I'm at evanmarkkatz.com. On my site, I've got 1,000 articles about dating and relationships. I've got 200 plus podcasts, and I offer group coaching and private coaching to smart, strong, successful women who have everything but the man.
Okay, you said on your site, so we need that site.
EvanMarkkatz.com, evanmarkkatz.com.
All right.
And my podcast
is
called the Love You Podcast. My signature course is called Love You.
Okay.
The letter U, like university. And again, I'm just glad that we finally got an opportunity to talk, and I got to see how you guys operate and your dynamic, and I could see why people respond to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being. I learned
so much about dating and how it translates over to relationships. You know, we had a guest on just before we get out of here. We had a guest on, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm married. I was with a guy for 9 years, and we got married. We got married because we was together for so long, and it was like the right thing to do. Society says, right? But she says, I married a pretty boy, and he was into himself. So she married up, right? So it's like she should have had the confidence to say, you know what? I know this is not going anywhere. He don't really want to get married, or he's not really into this relationship. So,
but I think it's the, as you said, we don't know what to compromise on. So she compromised. Yeah, she compromised on when she said in the beginning she knew he didn't want to get married.
But she wanted to get married. It wasn't because she's pregnant or anything like that, but she just, you've been together so long, that's the next step, to get married.
But now being remarried, she understands where the fault, where she went wrong. Right. And that's what we, you can be with someone and she said the good thing is that she realized and he realized that it wasn't going to work, instead of holding on it for dear life.
Right.
So that was the best thing he could have done, because now it opened her up for someone else. And that's what relationships are about. As you said, she said it's so easy. So, and that's what relationships, if we can't take anything else from it, once we realize what we're willing to compromise on, what works and what doesn't work, and what works for us, not works for society or our mom or our dad or our best friend, but what works for us, then we can realize the relationship that we want and have doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't have to be hard.
That's what she said.
I think you should get the last word on that one, too.
You got the last word, baby. There you go. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode.
All right, so as always, we're in it to win it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Lovin' Beyond the I Do podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Legendary Relationship, or visit our website at legendaryrelationship.com. Till next time, remember to make every day count.